Microeconomics for Investors. Chapter 7, Business Models. Section 1, Revenue Models. A revenue model answers a very basic business question. How does value turn into cash? It starts with what is actually being sold, because a company might sell a product, access to a service, ad space, or the right to use intellectual property. It also asks who is paying, and that is not always the same as the end user. In many businesses, the user gets the value while an advertiser, employer, or enterprise customer provides the money. The final piece is how payment is collected, whether that happens once, every month, per transaction, or based on usage. For investors, this matters because the path from value to income shapes the economics of the business long before we even talk about the exact price. It helps to separate the revenue model from pricing strategy because people often mix them together. The revenue model is the form of monetization, meaning how the company gets paid. Pricing strategy is the level of the charge, such as budget, mid-market, or premium. Two companies can use the exact same revenue model and still have very different economics because one charges much more than the other. A streaming service that charges $9 a month and another that charges $15 a month are both subscription businesses, even though their pricing choices differ. This distinction is important because a weak business does not become strong just by raising price, and a strong model can still be mispriced. Investors care about revenue models because they influence far more than reported sales. The model affects when cash arrives, whether income is steady or lumpy, and how easy results are to forecast. It also shapes customer behavior because people act differently when they are paying once, paying monthly, or paying only when they use the service. Customer acquisition cost and retention cost are tied to this as well, since some models require constant reselling while others can earn repeatedly from the same customer. Scalability also changes depending on the model, because some types of revenue expand smoothly, while others depend on repeated individual transactions. That is why investors look at revenue quality, not just revenue size. Most businesses fit into a small number of common revenue model types. Transaction-based models earn money each time a customer buys or uses something, like a retailer or brokerage charging per trade. Subscription models collect a recurring fee for continued access, which is common in software, media, and membership services. Advertising models are different because a third party pays for access to an audience rather than the user paying directly. Licensing models monetize intellectual property, such as patents, branded content, or software engines. Commission or marketplace models take a cut of transactions they help facilitate, which becomes especially important when we later discuss platform businesses. Some companies start with a free tier to remove friction and build adoption, and that is the basic idea behind freemium. The business gives away a useful version of the product, then tries to convert a smaller share of users into paying customers through added features, usage limits, or convenience. That can work well when the free product spreads easily and paid upgrades are clearly valuable. As companies mature, many also add mixed models combining subscriptions, transaction fees, services, or advertising. The benefit is broader monetization, but the trade-off is more complexity. Early on, a simpler model often makes it easier to understand what is working and measure unit economics clearly. Choosing a revenue model is really an economic design decision. The first step is to define the value exchange clearly and identify who receives the value versus who will actually pay. From there, the company chooses a monetization structure that fits the product, such as subscription, transaction, commission, licensing, or ads. The timing of payment matters too, because charging upfront, monthly, or after usage can change customer behavior and cash flow. A workable model also needs billing systems and revenue tracking that operations can actually support. In the end, the model has to survive contact with real data, so metrics like churn, gross margin, payback, and lifetime value become the test of whether the design truly works. Different revenue streams produce very different financial patterns, even when total sales look similar on paper. One-time revenue brings cash immediately, which can be helpful, but it often creates a stop-and-start business that must keep finding new purchases. Recurring revenue is usually easier to forecast because existing customers keep paying, assuming retention remains healthy. Transaction revenue can scale quickly when activity rises, but it can also fall just as quickly when demand or engagement weakens. Because predictability changes risk, investors often value these streams differently. Two businesses with the same annual revenue may deserve very different valuations if one is recurring and the other depends on irregular transactions. Imagine a resume review tool that helps job seekers improve applications. Under a transaction model, the business might charge $10 per review, which creates immediate cash but only when someone needs the service. Under a subscription model, it might charge $15 a month for ongoing access, resume storage, repeated feedback, and job search tools, creating steadier revenue but making retention critical. Under a freemium model, basic review features could be free while advanced scoring or tailored advice sit behind a paywall, which broadens adoption but means conversion has to cover the cost of free users. Notice that the product itself has not changed very much, but user expectations do change. People paying once expect a quick result, while subscribers expect continuous value and improvement over time. A revenue model can sound attractive at the top line and still fail when you test the unit economics. Take a subscription that charges $15 per month with monthly churn of 5%. A simple rule of thumb says average customer life is about 1 divided by churn, so that implies roughly 20 months of average lifetime. Multiply $15 by 20 months and you get about $300 of lifetime revenue before considering costs. If customer acquisition cost is below $100, that may look promising, but only if gross margins are healthy and service costs do not consume most of the revenue. This is why retention matters so much in subscriptions. Small changes in churn can dramatically change lifetime value. A few mistakes show up again and again when people analyze business models. One is confusing the model with pricing, as if charging more automatically fixes a weak structure. Another is copying competitors without asking whether the same model fits the company's own product, audience, and costs. Businesses also get into trouble when they pile on too many monetization methods too early and lose the ability to measure what is really working. Payment friction, limited scalability, and dependence on a single revenue source are other common weak points. A durable model is one that still earns money when conditions get a little worse, not one that only works in a perfect spreadsheet. Section 2. Subscription businesses. A subscription business earns repeatedly from the same customer instead of relying on a single sale. Customers usually pay on a monthly or annual schedule in exchange for continued access, ongoing delivery, or regular service. That structure appears in software, media, professional services, and even physical products like subscription boxes. What makes it a subscription business is not the product category but the renewal relationship. The company is effectively reselling its value to the same customer again and again. Because of that, the real engine is not just sign-up growth, but the ability to keep customers satisfied enough to keep paying. Recurring revenue is attractive because it can make the business more predictable. Instead of starting from zero each month, the company begins with an existing base of customers who may renew. But that advantage depends on whether the customer stays long enough for the business to recover acquisition cost. In many subscription models, the first months are not especially profitable because marketing and onboarding expenses are being paid back. The later renewal periods often carry much better margins, especially if service costs are stable. So the real value of recurring revenue comes from retention, not from the word subscription by itself. In practice, a subscription business runs as a repeating cycle rather than a single event. It first acquires customers through channels like paid ads, referrals, search, or partnerships. It then bills them automatically on a regular schedule, which reduces friction compared with asking for a fresh purchase each time. At the same time, it must keep delivering value consistently, whether that means software access, content, support, or physical shipments. Engagement becomes an early warning system because declining usage often shows up before cancellation does. One accounting detail also matters here. Even if cash is collected upfront, revenue is recognized over the period the service is actually delivered. Churn is the key risk in almost every subscription model. It measures the share of subscribers, or sometimes subscription revenue, that is lost during a period. A business can appear healthy if new signups are rising, but that picture can be misleading when cancellations are rising just as fast. High churn weakens the recurring revenue base because it forces the company to keep replacing customers instead of building on existing relationships. Low engagement is often an early sign that churn may increase later. That is why retention efforts are not a nice extra in subscriptions. They are central to the economics. The main subscription metrics are connected, so they should be read together rather than in isolation. MRR or ARR tells you the size of the recurring revenue base, while churn shows how much of that base is leaking away. CAC measures how much the company spends to acquire a customer, and LTV estimates the value that customer will generate over the relationship. ARPU helps you understand how much revenue each user contributes, and payback period shows how quickly acquisition cost is recovered. A company can justify higher CAC if churn is low and gross profit per customer is strong. In other words, healthy subscription growth is not just about adding customers, but about adding the right customers at an efficient cost. Pricing structure shapes subscription economics because it changes who signs up, how much they use the product, and how likely they are to stay. A flat rate model is simple and easy to understand, but it may leave money on the table if customer needs vary widely. Tiered pricing can broaden product market fit by giving lighter and heavier users different plans. Per user pricing works well when value grows with team size, especially in business software. A base fee plus usage charges can align price more closely with customer value, though it may also make bills less predictable. Freemium can drive signups quickly, but it only works when enough users convert and the free tier does not become an expensive permanent habit. Consider a meal kit subscription with $60 of monthly revenue and $30 of monthly cost to serve. That leaves $30 of monthly gross profit per customer. If customer acquisition cost is $80, the business needs a little under 3 months to recover that spending, roughly 2. 7 months. After that point, each additional month becomes economically attractive because the gross profit is contributing beyond the original acquisition cost. If the customer stays 6 months, total gross profit is about $180, leaving around $100 after recovering CAC. This example shows why recurring revenue becomes valuable only when the relationship lasts long enough. Small changes in churn can materially change the outcome of a subscription model. At 10% monthly churn, average customer life is about 10 months. At 15% monthly churn, average life falls to roughly 6-7 months. That may not sound like a huge difference at first, but it removes several renewal periods that would otherwise have been profitable. If payback happens late, higher churn can mean the company barely recovers CAC before the customer leaves. This is also why price increases alone rarely solve a weak subscription business if the underlying retention problem remains. A common mistake in subscription analysis is focusing only on gross new subscribers. A company can post impressive growth in signups while quietly damaging economics through heavy discounts, poor retention, or weak renewal trust. Another mistake is assuming all subscribers are equally valuable, when in reality some cohorts churn quickly and others stay much longer. Payment failures matter too, because involuntary churn from expired cards or billing issues can create hidden losses. Renewal friction, confusing terms, or a poor service experience can further weaken the model even if reported revenue still looks fine. Strong analysis looks beneath the headline numbers and asks whether customer relationships are truly durable and profitable. For investors, recurring revenue only deserves a premium when the underlying customer economics are sound. A good first question is how quickly CAC pays back, because long recovery periods make growth riskier. It also helps to ask whether churn is improving, stable, or worsening over time, since retention determines whether future renewals are valuable. The product itself has to create lasting value, not just generate trial signups through promotions. Margins matter as well, because strong retention is less useful if serving the customer remains expensive. Finally, investors should separate retention-led growth from discount-driven growth, since the second may look impressive while actually weakening long-term returns. Section 3. Platform businesses. A platform business creates value by helping different user groups interact directly. Instead of producing the core offering itself, it organizes exchange between producers and consumers. That means its job is to build the rules, infrastructure, and coordination tools that make transactions easier and more reliable. Think of a marketplace that connects sellers with buyers, or a ride-hailing app that connects drivers with riders. The platform may not own the goods, the cars, or the homes involved in the exchange. Its value comes from making discovery, matching, payment, and trust work smoothly enough that both sides want to keep participating. This is what separates a platform from a more traditional linear business. A linear business generally makes or controls the product and then sells it through a one-way chain. A hotel, for example, owns or leases rooms and sells those rooms to guests. A home-sharing platform works differently because it mainly connects hosts and guests rather than owning the room itself. The platform is not eliminating the underlying asset. It is changing who owns it and how access is coordinated. For investors, that changes cost structure, growth dynamics, and the type of competitive advantage the business may develop. Most platform businesses depend on three core elements working together. First, there must be supply, meaning producers or providers who offer something people want. Second, there must be demand, meaning consumers who are searching for that offering. Third, there must be an effective matching mechanism that connects the right supply with the right demand. Underneath all of that sits trust, because people are often transacting with strangers. Ratings, reviews, payments, rules, and safety systems are not side features in a platform. They are part of the foundation that makes exchange possible. Network effects matter because a platform can become more useful as more people join it. On the same side, users may help other users directly, as in a social network where each new participant creates more possible connections. On the cross side, growth in one group improves value for the other, such as more riders attracting drivers and more drivers improving service for riders. When these effects are strong, scale can create a real competitive advantage. A larger platform may offer better selection, faster matching, or more reliable outcomes. That said, the word network effect should not be used too loosely, because not every growing platform actually has one. Network effects are only valuable when growth improves real outcomes for users. More buyers and sellers do not help much if they cannot find good matches. A platform with poor search, low-quality listings, or too much spam may become less useful as it grows, not more useful. In that case, congestion and weak quality can reverse the benefits that scale was supposed to create. What matters is not just user count, but transaction success. Investors should ask whether added users improve match quality, speed, trust, and value creation across the platform. Getting a platform started is difficult because each side of the market often waits for the other. Sellers want buyers before they join, and buyers want enough supply before they bother looking. That is the classic chicken and egg problem. Successful platforms usually begin by defining one core interaction very clearly, such as rides between drivers and riders, or jobs between businesses and freelancers. They then subsidize one side of the market, often through lower fees, free access, or guaranteed earnings to get the system moving. The goal is to reach critical mass in a narrow use case before expanding outward. Matching is the real engine of a platform business. Search tools help users discover relevant options, while ranking and recommendations help surface the best ones quickly. Pricing and availability systems make the market usable in real time, especially when supply is changing. Communication and payment tools then reduce friction so that a match can become a completed transaction. A platform with strong matching does more than host participants. It improves the chance that the right people find each other efficiently. That is why better matching often matters more than simply having more users. Trust and safety are essential because many platform users are dealing with strangers. Identity verification helps confirm who is on the platform, and ratings or reviews give users a way to evaluate counterparties. Secure payments reduce fear around financial loss, while fraud monitoring and dispute resolution help the platform step in when something goes wrong. Without these systems, growth can stall because a few bad experiences can spread quickly and damage confidence on both sides of the market. With them, users are more willing to return and transact again. In that sense, trust is not just protection against downside. It is a driver of repeat usage and long-term growth. Many platform businesses are described as asset-light, but that should not be confused with low cost. A marketplace may avoid owning homes, cars, or inventory, yet still require large investments in software, data systems, and matching infrastructure. Payments operations can be complex and expensive, especially when fraud prevention and compliance are involved. Customer support also matters because two-sided markets generate disputes, questions, and edge cases that need resolution. Risk management and regulatory work can become substantial as the platform scales. So the absence of owned physical assets does not mean the business is cheap or easy to run. DesignLink is a simple example of how a platform creates value without doing the core work itself. To solve the launch problem, it first recruits designers by offering a low initial commission, making participation attractive on the supply side. It then pulls in businesses with free job posting trials, reducing friction on the demand side. Once both groups are present, the platform improves outcomes by matching projects based on type, budget, and availability. That means its value comes from organizing the market rather than producing the design work. If trust and matching improve as the network grows, both sides have more reason to stay. Platform businesses can become powerful, but they also fail in predictable ways. Some never solve the launch problem because neither side of the market joins in enough numbers. Others assume network effects will appear automatically, even though user growth may not improve transaction quality. Weak trust and poor quality control can push users away quickly, especially when bad experiences spread across the market. And many teams underestimate the operational demands of running a healthy platform, from support to fraud prevention to market balancing. Strong platform management is active, not passive. It shapes incentives, rules, and quality on an ongoing basis. Section 4. Asset-light models. An asset-light business earns revenue without owning most of the expensive physical infrastructure behind delivery. It may control the brand, design, pricing, customer relationship, or software layer while outsourcing manufacturing, warehousing, or logistics to partners. The important idea is that the company still controls the high-value parts of the business even if it does not own the heavy assets. This is why a company can sell physical products and still be asset-light. What matters is where ownership sits in the value chain. For investors, that often means lower capital requirements, but it also means more dependence on external execution. Asset-light firms try to keep the parts of the value chain that are most differentiated and most profitable. That often includes brand, customer relationships, design, software, patents, pricing, and overall product direction. These are the activities that shape demand and can create pricing power. By contrast, manufacturing and logistics may be outsourced if specialized partners can do them efficiently at scale. The company is essentially deciding that ownership matters most where uniqueness lives. If that choice is correct, the firm can preserve margin and strategic control without carrying all the physical assets itself. In practice, the model works by separating strategic control from physical ownership. The company keeps functions like branding, product design, pricing, and customer data because those areas shape the customer experience and the economics of the business. Capital-intensive operations such as manufacturing, warehousing, or fulfillment are handled through contracts with partners. This allows growth through new supplier relationships and service agreements instead of new factories or facilities. The trade-off is that direct ownership is replaced by coordination and oversight. So while the balance sheet may look wider, management discipline still has to be strong. One reason investors like asset-light models is that they can make costs more flexible. Instead of carrying large fixed expenses for factories, equipment, or owned logistics networks, the company pays more of its costs in proportion to activity. That can reduce downside risk when demand weakens because the business is less stuck with heavy capacity costs that do not go away. It can also make expansion easier since growth may require contracts and variable service payments rather than large upfront capital spending. This does not mean costs disappear. It means the cost structure often becomes more adaptable to changes in volume. The basic trade-off is flexibility versus control. Capital-intensive businesses usually carry higher fixed costs, but they may also have tighter control over quality, timing, and operations because they own the core assets. Asset-light businesses need less capital to expand and may move faster into new markets. However, they become more dependent on external partners for execution. Whether that is a good trade depends on where the competitive advantage actually sits. If the edge comes from brand, software, or distribution, asset-light can make a lot of sense. If it comes from process control or proprietary production, ownership may matter more. The premium blender example shows how two businesses can pursue the same market with very different ownership choices. One team raises $10 million and builds factory capacity, which creates high upfront cost, but offers more direct control and potentially better unit economics at scale. Another team spends only about $500,000 on design, patents, branding, and marketing, then pays an outside manufacturer $35 per unit while selling the blender for $150. The asset-light version enters the market much more cheaply and can often move faster, but it also depends on the quality, reliability, and pricing behavior of its manufacturing partner. So, cheaper entry does not remove strategic risk, it shifts where the risk lives. Outsourcing reduces owned assets, but it does not remove operational pressure. Minimum order quantities can still tie up cash in inventory even if the company does not own a factory. Suppliers may ask for deposits or faster payment terms, creating working capital strain. Long lead times can cause stockouts or missed demand, especially if forecasting is weak, and poor quality can damage the brand quickly because customers usually blame the company they bought from, not the supplier behind the scenes. Asset-light businesses therefore need strong planning and control systems even when physical ownership is low. The key principle here is simple. Outsourcing execution does not outsource accountability. A company needs clear specifications, service standards, and contractual expectations so partners know exactly what good performance looks like. It should also audit suppliers and inspect output regularly rather than assuming problems will surface on their own. Metrics such as defect rates, lead times, fill rates, and service reliability help turn partner performance into something measurable. Diversification matters too, because dependence on a single supplier can create major fragility. A well-run asset-light model replaces direct control with systems, visibility, and backup options. Think about a snack box business deciding what to keep in-house and what to outsource. The most valuable in-house pieces are likely the brand, the curation of products, and the customer data, because those are the parts that shape differentiation and future pricing power. Warehousing and fulfillment, by contrast, may be better handled by specialized partners with better physical infrastructure. That move can make the model lighter and more scalable, but the company still needs quality checks, service standards, and backup partners in case something goes wrong. The goal is not to outsource everything, but to outsource the parts that are asset-heavy without giving away the parts that make the business special. The core takeaway is that asset-light businesses try to own what differentiates them and outsource what mainly requires heavy physical investment. That often means lower capital needs and more flexibility in how the business scales. It can also improve returns on capital if the retained activities support pricing power and strong demand. The trade-off is less direct operational control, which raises the importance of supplier management, quality oversight, and reliability. So asset-light is not automatically superior. It works best when the company is very clear about which parts of the business create real strategic value. Section 5. Business model durability. A durable business model is one that keeps creating value and earning profits over many years, even as conditions change. For investors, that matters because a strong quarter or even a few strong years do not guarantee lasting strength. A business is more durable when customers continue to find it useful, competitors struggle to displace it, and the economics remain attractive through shifts in technology, regulation, or demand. In other words, durability combines value creation, defensibility, and adaptability. A business can look impressive today and still be fragile if it is easy to copy or easy to leave. That is why long-term investing depends so much on understanding not just growth, but staying power. Growth and durability are related, but they are not the same thing. A company can grow quickly because a trend is favorable, because marketing spending is unusually aggressive, or because temporary conditions are making demand easy to capture. Those factors can create impressive reported numbers while hiding a weak underlying model. The real test comes when pressure appears, such as a supplier shock, customer shift, cost spike, or a new competitor. Fragile models often break under that kind of stress because the growth was not backed by real protection. Durable businesses may slow down too, but they tend to keep functioning and recovering rather than collapsing. Several common features can make a business model more durable. Switching costs help when customers would lose time, data, convenience, or money by leaving. Network effects matter when added users increase value for other users, making the platform harder to replace. Economies of scale can protect a business by lowering unit costs as volume rises. Intellectual property or specialized know-how can also raise barriers by making imitation more difficult. And diversified revenue reduces dependence on any single product, customer type, or monetization stream. Durable businesses do not always have all of these, but they usually have at least one meaningful protective feature and often reinforce it over time. Durability is never permanent because competitive advantages can erode if they are not maintained. Technology may lower switching costs by making migration easier or by turning a once special product into a commodity. Regulation can weaken network effects or limit how a business uses its position. Rivals may narrow cost gaps, copy features, or improve execution until the original advantage matters less. Customer preferences can shift too, leaving a once strong model less relevant. That is why durable businesses do not simply defend the past. They monitor warning signs and keep adapting before the advantage fades too far. A practical way to evaluate durability is to start with the real advantage, not the marketing story. Ask what actually makes the business hard to replace or hard to copy. Then identify the threats that could weaken that advantage, whether those come from competitors, regulation, technology, or customer behavior. Strong businesses actively reinforce their barriers over time by improving product fit, deepening relationships, or widening cost and data advantages. It also helps to reduce single-point dependencies, such as one key supplier, one major customer, or one fragile revenue stream. Finally, stress test the model by asking whether it still works under tougher conditions instead of only under ideal assumptions. Durability does not mean staying unchanged. In fact, some of the strongest businesses remain durable precisely because they adapt while protecting the core of what makes them valuable. A company may change its technology, interface, pricing structure, or customer experience while keeping its brand strength, switching costs, network, or cost advantage intact. The important question is whether change strengthens the moat or weakens it. Businesses that refuse to evolve can become brittle, even if they were once dominant. The durable ones keep their identity while updating how they serve the market. Consider a subscription graphic design platform with 50,000 subscribers paying $30 a month. At first glance, that looks attractive because the revenue is recurring and the business also claims a proprietary design algorithm. But revenue quality alone does not prove durability. The real issue is what happens when competitors arrive and pricing pressure increases. If customers are deeply embedded, the algorithm is meaningfully better, and the workflow saves time, the model may hold up well. If not, the business may have recurring revenue without having a true moat. A free competitor is a useful stress test because it reveals what customers are really paying for. Some basic users may leave quickly if the existing product is only modestly better and switching costs are low, but power users may stay if the product fits into their workflow, stores assets, saves time, and produces meaningfully better output. In that case, the advantage is not just acceptable pricing, but embedded usefulness. This is what pressure reveals, whether customers remain because the business is hard to replace or only because the old price happened to be tolerable. Durable models usually keep their best fit customers even when weaker segments peel away. A durable model is not one that avoids all damage. It is one that can absorb damage and still function because the core economics remain sound. In this example, the company responds by improving value for advanced users through personalized design suggestions and a higher value premium tier. Some customers leave, and revenue falls by about 10%, but the business stabilizes because the remaining users still benefit strongly from the product. That is an important distinction. Durability means recovery and adaptation, not immunity. If the company can refocus on the customers it serves best, the model may remain strong even after a shock. Many mistakes in judging durability come from confusing current success with lasting strength. Size alone does not create protection if customers can leave easily or competitors can copy the model. High profits may simply reflect favorable temporary conditions rather than a real long-term advantage. First mover status can disappear quickly if the company fails to build switching costs, network effects, or some other barrier. Concentration risk is another common blind spot, because dependence on one supplier, one product, or one customer can create hidden fragility. Good analysis asks what truly protects the business and whether management is adapting to keep that protection relevant.